Rebecca Hayes had been flipping houses for almost 10 years. She'd seen everything from hoarder homes to properties damaged by floods. But nothing prepared her for what she found on that cold morning in March 2019. She was scrolling through her laptop, drinking her third cup of coffee, when she saw it. A county tax auction listing. A mansion. 12,000 square feet. Starting bid? $100. Rebecca actually laughed out loud. It had to be a typo. Houses like that went for millions even in rough condition. She clicked on the blurry photos. The place looked like something out of a horror movie. Boarded windows. Weeds so tall they reached the second floor. Paint peeling off in huge chunks. But underneath all that decay, she could see it. The bones were good. Really good. The listing said it had been abandoned since 1999. 20 years of sitting empty. The county just wanted it gone, wanted someone to pay the back taxes and take it off their hands. Rebecca's heart started racing the way it always did when she found a diamond in the rough. Her business partner, Dave, thought she was crazy. They'd been working together for 5 years and he knew that look in her eyes. "Becca, come on," he said over the phone. "There's always a catch with these places, always. It's $100, Dave. If it's a total loss, we're out $100. And about 50 grand in back taxes, probably. Plus whatever nightmare is waiting inside. You know, places don't sit empty for 20 years for no reason." But Rebecca couldn't let it go. She did her research. The property was in upstate New York, about 3 hours from her home in Detroit. The taxes were actually only $12,000, which was nothing for a property that size. No lines, no weird legal issues that she could find. It seemed clean. She drove up the next week for the auction. The county office was in a small town where everyone seemed to know everyone else, the kind of place where strangers stuck out. Rebecca felt eyes on her as she walked into the municipal building. There were only 3 other people at the auction. An elderly couple looking at a vacant lot, a man in a suit who left after the first property sold, and Rebecca sitting there with her heart pounding as they got to listing number 47. "Next we have 1247 Hillcrest Manor," the auctioneer said in a bored voice. 12,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, needs extensive work. Minimum bid $100. Rebecca raised her hand. Nobody else moved. The auctioneer looked around the room, waiting. 10 seconds passed. 20, 30. Sold for $100 to bidder 19. Just like that. Rebecca owned a mansion. The county clerk, a woman who looked about 70 with thick glasses, processed her paperwork. She kept glancing up at Rebecca with this strange expression. Not quite worried. More like concerned. "You know whose place this was?" the clerk finally asked. "No, ma'am. Just saw it was a good deal." The clerk pressed her lips together and stamped the papers. "Well, it's yours now. Good luck with it." Something about the way she said good luck made Rebecca's stomach twist. But she pushed the feeling aside. She'd gotten scared before on projects. It was normal. The drive to the property took her through winding country roads. Nice area, actually. Big old trees. Other estates set back from the road. The kind of neighborhood where old money lived quietly, which made it even stranger that this place had been sitting empty. When she pulled up to the gates, Rebecca's breath caught. The photos hadn't done it justice. Even in ruins, the mansion was beautiful. It was built in that old Italian style with stone columns and huge arched windows. The kind of place that cost a fortune to build back in the day. The gates were chained but not locked. Someone had cut through the lock years ago. Rebecca pushed through and walked up the long driveway. Weeds crunched under her boots. A bird flew out of a broken window, making her jump. The front door was solid wood, probably 8 feet tall. It was unlocked. The hinges groaned as she pushed it open. The smell hit her first. Dust and mildew and something else. The smell of time standing still. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, landing on a crystal chandelier that must have cost more than her car. It was covered in cobwebs and dust, but still hanging there like it was waiting for someone to flip a switch. Rebecca walked through the foyer and stopped cold. The house was furnished. Not empty, furnished. Like someone had just walked out one day and never came back. In the living room, couches sat arranged around a coffee table. There were still magazines on the table dated 1999. A remote control for a TV that was now obsolete. In the dining room, she found something that made her skin crawl. The table was set. 12 places, complete with plates and wine glasses. Dust covered everything like gray snow, but the arrangement was perfect. Like dinner was about to be served. Rebecca moved through room after room, her flashlight revealing more frozen moments. Bedrooms with clothes still hanging in closets. Expensive clothes. Designer labels from the 90s. A bathroom with toiletries lined up on the counter. Towels on the racks. The garage was the strangest part. 3 cars sat there with flat tires. A Mercedes. A BMW, a Cadillac. All from the late 90s. All covered in dust. All probably worth money if they could be restored. Rebecca stood in the middle of the grand foyer and turned in a slow circle. Something was very wrong here. People don't just abandon a mansion full of expensive things. They don't leave cars and furniture and clothes and just vanish. But that's exactly what had happened. As she was leaving, she noticed something she'd missed before. In the library, one of the bookshelves looked odd. The books were arranged too perfectly, too neat. She walked over and ran her hand along the spine of a leather-bound volume. The bookshelf moved. Behind it was a small office. A desk, filing cabinets, a leather chair. Rebecca's heart was pounding now. She pulled open the desk drawers. Empty. The filing cabinets? Also empty. Someone had cleaned this room out but left everything else. Rebecca locked up the mansion and sat in her car for a long time before starting the engine. Every instinct she had was screaming that something was off. But she couldn't stop thinking about the potential. The chandelier alone was probably worth thousands. The marble in the bathrooms. The woodwork. The bones of the place. She drove back to Detroit with her mind racing. Dave called her twice. She didn't answer. She needed to think. That night she lay awake staring at the ceiling. $100. She'd bought a mansion for $100. But as she finally drifted off to sleep, the county clerk's words echoed in her mind. You know whose place this was? No, she didn't know. But she had a feeling she was about to find out, and something told her she wasn't going to like the answer. Rebecca couldn't stay away from the mansion. Over the next week, she went back 3 more times. Each visit revealed something new, something that made her more curious and more uneasy at the same time. On her second trip, she brought a camera to document everything. Insurance purposes, she told herself. But really, she wanted proof of what she was seeing. Because it was all so bizarre that she wasn't sure people would believe her. She started in the master bedroom. The bed was still made. The comforter pulled tight like a hotel bed. On the nightstand was a watch. Expensive by the look of it. A Rolex covered in dust. She picked it up carefully. It had stopped at 3:47. Morning or afternoon, she had no way to know. The closet was the size of her living room back home. Men's suits hung in neat rows. She counted them. 23 suits, all high-end. Italian labels she'd only seen in magazines. On the other side, women's clothes. Dresses from the 90s that probably cost thousands each. Shoes lined up perfectly. More than 50 pairs. But it was what she found in the back corner that made her stop breathing. A safe, built into the wall, hidden behind a sliding panel. Rebecca stood there staring at it for a full minute. Her hands were actually shaking. This was someone's home. Someone's private space. Should she be doing this? But then again, she owned the place now. Legally, whatever was in that safe belonged to her. She took photos of the safe and decided to come back to it. First, she wanted to check the basement. She'd been putting it off because basements in abandoned buildings creeped her out, but she needed to know what she was dealing with. The basement stairs were solid concrete. Good sign. As she descended, her flashlight picked out details that seemed odd. The walls were thicker than normal. The doors were metal, not wood. Heavy metal doors with serious locks. The main basement area was huge, taking up the entire footprint of the house. It was divided into several rooms. Most were empty now, just concrete floors and bare walls. But the setup was strange. Really strange. There was a ventilation system that looked way too sophisticated for a normal house. Industrial grade. The kind of thing you'd see in a commercial building. One room had what looked like a commercial kitchen setup. Industrial refrigerators still there but not working. A huge freezer. Restaurant-quality stoves. Who needs a setup like that in a private home? Another room was locked with a padlock that looked newer than everything else. Like someone had come back and secured it after the place was abandoned. Rebecca made a note to bring bolt cutters next time. She was heading back upstairs when she heard it. A creak, footsteps maybe. She froze, her heart hammering. The house settled around her, old wood contracting. Probably just that. Old houses made noise. But she hurried up the stairs anyway, suddenly very aware that she was alone in this huge empty building. Back in her car, she called Dave. "I need your contractor guy, the one you use for the heavy jobs." "Why?" "I need to open a safe. And I need someone who knows what they're looking at with this place. The basement alone is giving me weird vibes," Dave sighed.
"Becca, I swear to God, if you got us into something illegal, it's not illegal to buy a house at auction.
Can you send me his number?" The contractor's name was Tony Ricci. He drove up 2 days later in a beat-up truck with his tools. He was about 60, with gray hair and hands that looked like they'd seen 50 years of hard work. The kind of guy who'd probably built half the houses in whatever town he came from. Tony pulled up to the mansion and his face went pale. Actually pale. "This is the address?" he asked, not getting out of his truck. "Yeah. Problem? You bought the Castellano place." The way he said it made Rebecca's blood run cold.
Who?
Tony finally got out, but he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Vincent Castellano. This was his house, back in the 90s, and who was he? Tony gave her a long look. "You really don't know?" "I wouldn't ask if I knew. He was a businessman. Owned restaurants, a construction company, some clubs. At least that's what everyone said officially." Tony lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "Unofficially? Word was he had connections. The kind of connections you don't talk about." Rebecca's stomach dropped. "You mean? I'm not saying anything specific. But when he disappeared in '99, nobody was surprised. And nobody was surprised when the feds showed up and seized everything. There were investigations, questions, then it all just went quiet. Disappeared. Like ran away?" Tony shrugged. "Or like someone made him disappear. Depends who you ask. Nobody knows for sure. The government took the house, but it got tied up in court for years. His family fought it. Then they didn't, then it just sat there. Nobody wanted to touch it. Why? Because smart people don't mess with this kind of history," Tony said flatly. "Look, I'll help you with the safe and give the place a once-over. But after that, I'm done. I got grandkids. I don't need trouble." They opened the safe that afternoon. Tony brought a locksmith friend who asked no questions and didn't make eye contact. It took him 40 minutes to crack it. Inside, Rebecca found bundles of cash. Old hundreds wrapped in bank bands. She counted quickly. $47,000. Her hands were shaking as she set the money aside. There was more. Passports. 3 of them. All with Vincent's photo, but different names. Michael Romano, Anthony Gallo, Richard Marino. All the stamps were from countries she'd never been to. Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, Panama. A stack of photos held together with a rubber band that crumbled when she touched it. Rebecca spread them out on the desk. Vincent Castellano with various men. All of them in expensive suits. All of them looking at the camera like they owned the world. One photo made her breath catch. She recognized one of the faces from documentaries she'd watched. A mob boss who'd been killed in the early 2000s. "Oh God," she whispered. There were ledgers too, small books filled with handwritten numbers and codes, names and dates and figures that meant nothing to her, but she knew what they probably were. Records, evidence, the kind of thing that could ruin lives or end them. Tony was looking over her shoulder. His face had gone from pale to gray. "You need to call the FBI. It's mine. Legally, I own this property and everything in it. Becca, listen to me. This is not a game. These aren't just things. This is someone's insurance policy. You know what that means?" She did know. She'd watched enough crime shows. Insurance meant evidence kept safe in case you needed leverage. In case you needed to make a deal or protect yourself. Vincent had been keeping records on someone. Probably lots of someone's. "I need to think about this," Rebecca said. "No, you need to call the cops. Today. Right now." But she didn't. That night, Rebecca sat in her apartment with the money and the documents spread on her table. $47,000. That was real money. Money that could fund renovations on the mansion. Money that could change her life. The smart thing was to call the authorities. She knew that. But the money sat there crisp and real. And the mansion was hers. Legally hers. Didn't that mean everything in it was hers too? She called a lawyer friend at 11 at night. Woke him up. Asked hypothetically about property ownership and contents. He was groggy but clear. If you bought it at auction and the previous owner's rights were terminated, yeah, technically it's yours. But if there's evidence of a crime, you have to report it. You could be charged with obstruction or tampering if you don't. Hypothetically. Nothing's hypothetical at 11 p.m., Becca. What did you find? She hung up. That night she barely slept. Every car that drove by her apartment made her jump. Every creak in the building sounded like footsteps. She kept seeing those photos. Vincent and those men. All of them probably dead now. Or worse. At 3 in the morning, she got up and checked all her locks. Twice. Then she sat on her couch with the lights on and waited for sunrise. She didn't know it yet. But sunrise wouldn't make her feel any safer. Because she wasn't alone in knowing about the mansion anymore. Tony knew. The locksmith knew. And word traveled fast in certain circles. In a small town 300 miles away, a phone call was made. An old man listening nodded slowly, said nothing, and hung up. Then he made another call. The next morning, Rebecca would go back to the mansion one more time. But this time someone would be watching. And they wanted to know exactly what she'd found in that safe. The $100 mansion was starting to cost more than money. It was going to cost her peace of mind. Maybe more than that. But Rebecca didn't know that yet. She was still thinking about the $47,000. Still thinking about the potential. Still thinking she could handle this. She was wrong. The black car showed up on Tuesday. Rebecca was at the mansion taking measurements in the living room when she noticed it through the window. It was parked across the street, just sitting there. Dark-tinted windows. Engine running, she could see the exhaust in the cold air. She watched it for about 10 minutes. It didn't move. She told herself it was nothing. Maybe someone lost, maybe someone on a phone call. But her hands were sweating as she went back to work. When she left 2 hours later, the car was gone. On Wednesday, it was back. Same car or one just like it, same spot across the street. This time Rebecca walked toward it, her phone in her hand ready to take a picture. But as soon as she got close, the car pulled away, slowly, not speeding off like they were scared. Just leaving, like they'd seen what they needed to see. That night, Rebecca's home security camera caught someone on her front porch at 2:47 a.m. A figure in dark clothes, trying her door handle. Testing it. When the motion sensor light came on, they walked away calmly. Didn't run. Just walked back to the street and disappeared. Rebecca watched the footage 5 times, her heart pounding. She called the police. They came, took a report, told her to keep her doors locked, said it was probably just someone checking houses, seeing what was easy to break into. Happened all the time. But Rebecca knew better. This wasn't random. This was about the mansion. She didn't sleep that night. Sat on her couch with every light on and a baseball bat next to her. Jumped at every sound. At 6 a.m. she gave up trying and made coffee with shaking hands. Her phone rang at 8. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. No message. It rang again an hour later. Same number. This time she answered, breathing on the other end. Just breathing. Then a click. Who is this? She said to the dead line. The calls kept coming. 3 that day. 4 the next. Always the same. Someone listening, someone making sure she knew they were there. Dave came over on Friday night, found her pacing her apartment, looking out the window every few minutes. Okay, that's it, he said. You're freaking me out now. What's going on? She told him everything. The safe, the money, the passports and photos and ledgers, the car, the person at her door, the phone calls. Dave's face went from concerned to angry to scared. Are you insane? Why didn't you call the cops? And tell them what? I found cash in a house I bought? That's not illegal. The other stuff is evidence, Becca, evidence of crimes. You're holding evidence. That makes you part of this. I was going to report it. I just wanted to figure out what I had first. No. Dave stood up, started pacing. No, you wanted to keep the money. You thought you could have it both ways. And now someone knows you have it and they want it back. It's not their money. It's been sitting there for 20 years. You think that matters? You think people like this care about property rights? He ran his hands through his hair. I'm out, Becca. I can't be part of this. I have a wife. Kids. I'm not getting mixed up in mob stuff. It's not mob stuff. It's just an old house with a dead mobster's insurance policy in the safe. Do you hear yourself? Dave grabbed his jacket. Call the FBI tonight or I will. He left. Rebecca stood in her empty apartment, feeling the walls close in. She knew he was right. She'd known it from the beginning. But the money, God, the money. It was supposed to be her big break. Her chance to really make something of herself. She looked at the box under her coffee table where she'd hidden the cash and documents. $47,000 and a death wish. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. This time someone spoke. You have something that doesn't belong to you. The voice was older. Calm. The calmness was worse than if he'd been yelling. We'd like it back. Rebecca's mouth was dry. Who is this? Someone who's trying to save you from making a bad decision. The house is yours. Keep it, renovate it, sell it, we don't care. But what you found, that needs to come back to the family. I don't know what you're talking about, a soft laugh. Sure you don't, listen carefully. Tomorrow you're going to get a visit. A man named Luca. He's going to make you an offer for the property. A generous offer. $2 million. You're going to accept it. You're going to sign the papers. And you're going to give Luca everything you found in that safe. And if I don't? Silence for a long moment. People make bad decisions every day. Sometimes they live to regret them. Sometimes they don't live at all. But you seem smart. I think you'll make the right choice. The line went dead. Rebecca's hands were shaking so hard she dropped the phone. $2 million. They were offering her $2 million. That meant what was in the safe was worth way more than that. Worth enough to kill for. She grabbed her laptop and started searching. Vincent Castellano. Crime Family Connections. Disappeared 1999, federal investigations. She found news articles from back then. The FBI had raided his businesses. They were looking for evidence of racketeering, money laundering, and worse. But they never found the smoking gun. Never found the records they needed to tie Vincent to the really bad stuff, because those records were sitting under Rebecca's coffee table. She kept reading. 3 of Vincent's associates had disappeared in late 1999. Just vanished. Police suspected foul play but never found bodies, never found evidence. One article mentioned rumors about Vincent's mansion, about things that happened in the basement. But it was all speculation. Nothing proven. Rebecca's blood ran cold. The basement. Those locked rooms. That industrial kitchen setup. That new padlock on one of the doors. What was behind it? She didn't want to know. But she needed to know. At midnight she called Tony. Woke him up for the second time. I need you to meet me at the mansion tomorrow. Early. Before anyone else shows up. Becca, I told you I'm done. Someone threatened me, Tony. They know I found stuff. They're coming tomorrow to make me sell. I need to know what else is in that house before I make any decisions. Tony was quiet. She could hear his wife asking who it was in the background. What kind of threat? The kind where they knew my name. Knew where I live. Knew about the safe. More silence. I'll meet you at 7. But we're not going alone. I'm bringing my nephew. He's a cop. No cops. Retired cop. Private investigator now. Name's Jake, and if you're smart, you'll let him help you. This is bigger than you, Becca. Bigger than both of us. They met at the mansion as the sun was coming up. Jake was about 40, with the kind of eyes that missed nothing. He listened to Rebecca's story without interrupting. When she finished, he asked to see everything. The safe, the contents, the basement. In the basement, Jake went straight to the locked room. This padlock is maybe 5 years old. Someone came back here after the place was abandoned. Can you open it? Can I? Yes. Should I? That's the question. But he was already pulling out bolt cutters. Step back. The padlock fell to the concrete floor with a clang that echoed. Jake pushed the door open slowly. The smell hit them first. Old and musty and wrong. Jake turned on his flashlight. Rebecca gasped. The room was soundproofed. Walls covered in acoustic panels. In the center was a drain, the kind you'd see in a commercial kitchen. But this wasn't a kitchen. On the walls were metal rings, chains, dark stains on the concrete floor around the drain. Stains that could have been anything but probably weren't. Dear God, Tony whispered. Jake's face was stone. This is a crime scene. Active crime scene. We need to back out slowly and call the FBI right now. What was this place? Rebecca already knew. Didn't want to know, but knew. This is where they hurt people, maybe killed them. That drain? That's for washing away evidence. Jake was already on his phone. Don't touch anything. Don't move. We're standing in someone's nightmare. Rebecca felt her legs go weak. She'd been living with this. Walking over this. For weeks. There were bodies somewhere in this house, had to be. You don't build a room like this and not use it. Jake was talking to someone on the phone, FBI field office. He was explaining what they'd found, using words like probable cause and immediate response needed. Tony had Rebecca by the arm, leading her upstairs. She couldn't feel her legs. Couldn't think. The $100 mansion, the deal of a lifetime. It was a tomb, a place where terrible things had happened. They waited outside for the FBI to arrive. It took 2 hours. 2 agents first, then 4, then a whole team. They taped off the property, started documenting everything, asked Rebecca about 1,000 questions. The money? One agent asked. The documents? Where are they? At my apartment. Under my coffee table. We'll need to collect those. They're evidence now. But they're mine. I bought the property. Ma'am, anything related to criminal activity becomes evidence. We'll sort out the legal ownership later. Right now, we need those documents. The agents came to her apartment that afternoon, took everything, the cash, the passports, the photos, the ledgers, put it all in evidence bags and gave her a receipt. $47,000 reduced to a piece of paper. That night, Rebecca sat in her empty apartment and cried, not for the money, for the people who'd suffered in that basement, for the families who never knew what happened to their loved ones, for her own stupidity in thinking she could profit from someone else's tragedy. Her phone rang one more time that night. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. You made a choice, the calm voice said. The wrong choice. I did the right thing. We'll see. You know, there are people who won't be happy about those documents surfacing. Important people. Powerful people. Some of them are still alive. That's their problem. No, Miss Hayes, it's yours. The line went dead. Rebecca sat in the dark and realized the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. The FBI seized the mansion the next morning. Yellow tape everywhere. Agents in suits carrying boxes and equipment. Cadaver dogs sniffing through the basement. Rebecca watched from across the street, feeling numb. Jake, the retired cop turned investigator, had stayed in touch. He showed up that afternoon with coffee and information she didn't want to hear. They found something, he said, sitting on the hood of his car. In the basement. Behind that locked room. There's another room. Hidden. Rebecca's coffee turned to acid in her stomach. Bodies. They're not telling me details yet. But they brought in a forensic team. The kind you bring when you expect to find remains. He paused, watching the agents move in and out of the house. Becca, this is bigger than anyone thought. Those ledgers you found, they're already making connections. Names in those books are connected to unsolved crimes going back 30 years. I just wanted to flip a house. I know, but you opened a can of worms that people wanted to stay closed. Jake handed her a business card. This is Agent Morrison, FBI. She's heading the investigation. She wants to talk to you. Officially. Rebecca met with Agent Morrison the next day. The FBI office was cold and gray. All fluorescent lights and hard chairs. Morrison was maybe 50, with short hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Miss Hayes, I need you to understand the situation you're in, Morrison said, sliding a folder across the table. Vincent Castellano wasn't just connected to organized crime. He was a made member of one of the most powerful families in the country. When he disappeared in 1999, it wasn't because he ran away. It was because he became a liability. What does that mean? It means he knew too much. Had too much evidence. We think he was planning to cooperate with federal investigators. Make a deal. But before he could, someone got to him. Morrison opened the folder. Inside were crime scene photos. Rebecca looked away. We never found his body. Until yesterday, Rebecca's head snapped up. What? In the sub-basement. Behind a false wall. Vincent Castellano. Been there for 26 years. And he's not alone. The room spun. Rebecca gripped the edge of the table. How many? 4 bodies total. We're still identifying them, but we think they're associates who disappeared around the same time. People who knew too much. People Vincent might have used as insurance. Insurance? Morrison leaned forward. Vincent was smart. He kept records on everyone. Every dirty deal. Every murder. Every payoff. But he also made sure people knew that if anything happened to him, those records would surface. It's the only reason he lived as long as he did. But someone got to him anyway. Someone who thought they could find the records and destroy them. They tortured him in that basement, probably for days, trying to get him to talk, to tell them where everything was hidden. When he wouldn't talk, they killed him. Killed his associates too. Then they sealed up the basement and left. Rebecca felt sick. The safe. That's what they were looking for. For 26 years. And you found it. Which means now you're a problem for some very dangerous people. Morrison pulled out more papers. Photos of men in expensive suits. These are people named in those ledgers. Some are dead now. Some are in prison. But 3 of them are still free. Still powerful. Still very motivated to keep those documents from seeing daylight. One photo caught Rebecca's eye. An older man with silver hair and cold eyes. Who's that? Antonio Castellano, Vincent's younger brother. He took over family operations after Vincent disappeared. Built a legitimate business empire on top of the criminal one. Respected businessman now. Sits on charity boards. Donates to politicians. Morrison's voice was hard. And he's the one who probably ordered his own brother's death. He called me. Morrison went very still. When? Rebecca told her about the phone calls. The threats. The offer to buy the house. Morrison was already texting someone, her fingers flying over her phone. We're putting you in protective custody. Right now. What? No, I have a life. A business. You have a target on your back, Morrison stood up. Antonio won't stop. He can't. If those ledgers go public, he loses everything. His business. His reputation. His freedom. He'll do whatever it takes to shut this down. And right now, you're the face of this investigation. They put Rebecca in a safe house that night. A bland apartment in a suburb she'd never heard of. 2 agents outside. No phone except for an emergency line. She felt like a prisoner. Jake visited 3 days later, escorted by agents. He brought files. Research he'd been doing. I've been digging into the Castellano family, he said, spreading papers on the coffee table. Antonio isn't working alone. He's got people. Lawyers, cops, politicians. People who owe him favors. People who are mentioned in those ledgers. The FBI knows this, right? They know some of it. But they don't know how deep it goes. Jake pulled out a news article from 6 months ago. Remember Judge Harold Chen? Died in a car accident last year? Vaguely. He was about to preside over a racketeering case. Against a company that Antonio Castellano owns part of. The accident was ruled mechanical failure. Brake line cut. But the investigation was closed quickly. Too quickly. Rebecca's blood ran cold. I think Antonio has been cleaning up loose ends for years. Anyone who threatens him, anyone who gets too close to the truth, they have accidents. They disappear. Jake met her eyes. You found the one thing that can destroy him. He won't let you live with that knowledge. The FBI is protecting me, for now, but they can't protect you forever. Eventually, you have to go back to your life. And when you do, he'll be waiting. That night, Rebecca couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Vincent Castellano, about what he must have felt in those last days, knowing his brother had betrayed him, being tortured in his own basement, dying with his secrets intact. She thought about the 4 bodies, people who'd trusted the wrong person, people who'd known too much. She thought about Judge Chen, about his family believing it was just an accident. At 3 a.m., she made a decision. She buzzed for one of the agents. A young guy named Peters who looked barely old enough to shave. I need to talk to Agent Morrison now. It's 3 in the morning. Now. Morrison arrived an hour later, looking annoyed and concerned. What's wrong? I want to help. Really help. Not just hide in this apartment while you build your case. I want to help take Antonio down. Morrison studied her. That's not how witness protection works. I'm not in witness protection. I'm in a safe house. There's a difference. Rebecca pulled out the notes Jake had left. Antonio called me. He knows my voice. He thinks he can still buy me off or scare me into silence. What if he's wrong? What are you suggesting? Use me. Let me record conversations with him. Get him to incriminate himself. You said he has people everywhere. People you can't touch because you don't have evidence. Let me help you get that evidence. That's incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. Rebecca shook her head. He wants those documents. He wants to know what else I found. Let's give him the chance to ask. Morrison was quiet for a long time. If we do this, you follow every instruction. You wear a wire at all times. You never meet him alone. And the second I think it's too dangerous, we pull you out. Agreed. I need to run this past my supervisor, and you need to understand what you're volunteering for. This man has killed before. He'll kill again if he thinks it's necessary. I know, Morrison left. Rebecca sat in the dark apartment and wondered if she'd just made the bravest decision of her life or the stupidest. Probably both. Jake called the next morning unofficial. Morrison told me what you're planning. You're insane. You're the one who told me he wouldn't stop. I told you to be careful, not to paint a bigger target on yourself. He sighed. But if you're going to do this, I'm helping. I know people. People who can watch your back better than the FBI can. Jake, don't argue. My uncle died because of people like Antonio Castellano. Same kind of family. Same kind of violence. I couldn't help him. But I can help you. Over the next week, they planned. Morrison set up the operation. Rebecca would reach out to Antonio. Tell him she was willing to make a deal. The documents for safety and money. They'd arrange a meeting. Get him talking. Get him to admit things on tape. It was a good plan. A solid plan. But plans don't account for people who've been killing for 30 years. People who know every trick, every angle. The night before the operation was supposed to start, Rebecca got one more phone call. The safe house phone. The one only the FBI had the number for. She picked up, her heart already racing. Hello, Rebecca. Antonio's voice, calm as ever. I know what you're planning. Your agent friends. The wire you're going to wear. The trap you're trying to set. Rebecca's mouth went dry. How? Because I've been playing this game since before you were born. Did you really think I didn't have people inside the FBI? People who tell me things? He chuckled softly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Morrison the operation is off. You're scared. You changed your mind. And then you're going to disappear for a while. Go on vacation. Leave the country, maybe. And if I don't, then I'll be very disappointed. And when I'm disappointed, I get creative. You have a nice family, Rebecca. Parents in Florida. Sister in California with 2 beautiful children. Would be a shame if something happened to them. The line went dead. Rebecca sat there shaking. He knew everything. Where her family lived. What she was planning. He had someone inside the FBI. She was trapped. Completely trapped. And she had no idea how to get out. Rebecca didn't tell Morrison about the call. Not at first. She sat in that safe house all night thinking, if Antonio had someone inside the FBI, then telling Morrison might make things worse. Might get her family hurt. But she also knew she couldn't run forever. And she couldn't let Antonio win. Not after what he'd done. Not after seeing that basement. Those bodies. At sunrise, she made a decision that terrified her. She called Jake. Not through the FBI phone. Through a burner phone he'd given her for emergencies. One the FBI didn't know about. I need your help. The real kind. It's not the official kind. They met in a parking lot 2 hours later. Jake had lost his FBI tail easily. Years of police work taught you how to spot surveillance, how to lose it. Antonio called me, Rebecca said, on the safe house phone. He knew about the operation. He threatened my family. Jake's face went hard. There's a leak. He told me to back off, to leave the country, or else. So what do you want to do? Rebecca pulled out her own phone. Hit record. I want to make a different kind of insurance policy. The kind Vincent made, something that keeps me and my family alive even if Antonio has people everywhere. Over the next 3 days, they worked in secret. Rebecca recorded everything she knew. Every detail about the mansion, the safe, the documents, the basement, the bodies. She made copies of all the FBI reports she'd been given. All the photos, everything. Jake helped her set up a digital dead man switch. If she didn't check in every 48 hours, everything would automatically upload to 50 different news outlets. No way to stop it. No way to trace it back before it went public. Now we tell Morrison, Jake said. But we don't tell her about the switch. We tell her about the leak. Morrison's face went pale when Rebecca told her about Antonio's call. He called you here? On this line? Yeah, knew everything about the operation. About my family. He's got someone on the inside. Morrison was already on her phone calling her supervisor. Within an hour, the safe house was swarming with internal affairs agents. Looking for the leak. Testing everyone. The 2 agents who'd been guarding Rebecca were pulled in for questioning. We're moving you, Morrison said. New location, new team. People I trust personally. That won't work. Excuse me? Rebecca took a breath. If he found me once, he'll find me again. He's got resources we can't match. So we need to change the game. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we let him think he won. Rebecca's plan was simple and terrifying. She would reach out to Antonio, tell him she was scared. She'd take his deal, disappear. But first she wanted to meet face to face, to make sure he'd really leave her family alone, to look him in the eye and know he was telling the truth. He'll never go for it, Morrison said. He will, because he thinks he's already won. He knows there's a leak. He thinks I'm scared enough to run. This is his victory lap. And when you meet him, I'll be wearing a wire, but not one of yours. One that Jake gets from his contacts. One that can't be traced back to the FBI. If there's a leak, the leak won't know about it. Morrison didn't like it, but she was out of options. The leak had compromised everything. They needed fresh evidence. Evidence that couldn't be tainted by whoever Antonio had inside the bureau. It took a week to set up. Rebecca reached out through the number Antonio had called from. Left a message. Said she was ready to deal. Ready to go away. He called back within an hour. Smart decision, Antonio said. I knew you were a reasonable person. I want guarantees in person. You promised to leave my family alone, I'd disappear forever. Silence. She could almost hear him thinking. Weighing the risks. Where? The mansion. Tomorrow night. Just you and me. The FBI is watching that property. Not inside. I still have the keys. We can talk in the basement, where it all happened. Seems fitting, don't you think? Another long pause. You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. But I need to see your face when you promise me. I need to know you'll keep your word. Fine. Tomorrow night. 9 p.m. Come alone. I will. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. Morrison was already organizing the operation. Agents would be hidden around the property. Snipers on nearby buildings. SWAT team ready to move in. But they'd stay back until they had enough on tape. Until Antonio incriminated himself. Jake fitted her with the wire himself. Military grade. Used by special forces. Hidden so well that even a pat-down wouldn't find it. You don't have to do this, he said. You've already done more than anyone could ask. Yes, I do. Those people in the basement, they didn't get justice. Vincent died keeping his secrets. The families never knew what happened. This ends tomorrow. One way or another. The next night was cold and clear. Rebecca drove to the mansion alone, her heart hammering. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she kept going. The mansion looked different now. Crime scene tape fluttered in the wind. The FBI had finished their work, but the place still felt haunted. She unlocked the door and went inside. Antonio was already there, standing in the foyer, looking at the chandelier. He was smaller than she expected. Older, just a man in an expensive suit. Until you looked at his eyes. His eyes were cold and empty. Rebecca, thank you for coming. Let's get this over with. They walked to the basement. Antonio moved like he knew the place. Of course he did. He'd been here before. Probably been here that night in 1999. Maybe even pulled the trigger himself. In the basement, Antonio turned to face her. The documents. Where are they? The FBI has them. You know that. Copies. You must have made copies. I didn't have time. They grabbed everything. Antonio smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I don't believe you. Vincent was paranoid. He taught me that. Always have insurance. Always have leverage. You've been around his stuff for weeks. You're smart. You made copies. Even if I did, what does it matter? The FBI already has everything. Because evidence can be lost. Witnesses can recant. But if there are copies floating around, copies I don't control, then I have a problem. He took a step closer. So let's try this again. Where are the copies? Rebecca's wire was recording everything. But it wasn't enough. She needed him to say more. Why does it matter? You've got people inside the FBI. You said so yourself. I have people, but I don't have everyone. And those documents? They name names. Important names, senators, judges, police chiefs. People who've been very helpful to me over the years. People who will stop being helpful if their names go public. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne. Expensive and cloying. My brother was weak, sentimental, kept records like they were some kind of shield. But records cut both ways. They can protect you or destroy you, and I'm not interested in being destroyed. You killed him, your own brother. Antonio's face didn't change. He was going to talk. Going to make a deal. Family doesn't betray family. He knew the rules. He was trying to save himself. He was being selfish. Everything I built, everything our family built, he was going to tear it down to save his own skin. Antonio shook his head. I gave him a chance. Told him to hand over the records. All of them. We could have worked something out. But he refused. Said they were his insurance, so I had to make a different kind of arrangement. Rebecca felt sick. He was admitting to murder, to torturing his own brother. All of it recorded. All of it evidence. The others? The other bodies. They were with him. Heard too much, saw too much. Can't leave loose ends. That's how you survive in this business. No loose ends. And me? I'm a loose end, you were. But now you're leaving, going somewhere far away. Staying quiet, that makes you not a problem anymore. What if I don't stay quiet? Antonio's smile widened. Then you become an object lesson. Like Vincent. Like Judge Chen. Like everyone else who thought they could cross me and live. He pulled out a phone. But that won't happen. Because you're smart. You understand the game now. You understand that there are people in this world who have power. Real power. Power that doesn't care about laws or police or federal agents. Is that why you're here alone? Because you have so much power? For the first time, Antonio looked uncertain. What? You're here alone? No guards, no backup. Just you. That doesn't seem very powerful to me. Antonio's hand moved toward his jacket. Rebecca's blood ran cold. Gun. He had a gun. But before he could draw it, lights flooded the basement. FBI agents pouring in from every entrance. SWAT team with rifles. Morrison's voice over a loudspeaker. Antonio Castellano, you're under arrest. Hands where we can see them, now. Antonio froze. Then slowly he raised his hands. His face was calm, almost amused. You think this matters? I'll be out in 3 hours. I'll have the best lawyers in the country. Everything I said can be explained, misunderstood, taken out of context. We'll see, Morrison said, handcuffing him personally. Thanks to Miss Hayes, we have you on tape admitting to multiple murders, including your own brother. That's going to be hard to explain away. As they led Antonio out, he looked back at Rebecca. You just signed your death warrant. You know that, right? I have friends. Even if I go away, they'll come for you. For your family. No, they won't. Rebecca pulled out her phone, showed him a screen. See this? This is the timer. Every 48 hours I have to reset it. If I don't, everything I know, everything I recorded, everything the FBI has, it all goes public. Automatic. Unstoppable. Every news outlet in the country gets it. Your friends get named. Their crimes get exposed. Everything burns. Antonio's face went pale. You're bluffing. Try me, please. I'd love to see your whole organization go down in flames. They took him away. Rebecca stood in the basement shaking. Morrison put a hand on her shoulder. You did it. He's done. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not quite. The trial took 8 months. Antonio's lawyers fought hard. But the recording was damning. His own words. His own confession. The jury took 4 hours to convict him. Murder. Conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, witness intimidation, life in prison. No parole. The documents Rebecca found led to 37 more arrests, including 2 FBI agents, 1 federal prosecutor, and a state senator. The corruption went deep. Deeper than anyone had imagined. Rebecca got to keep the $47,000 eventually. After legal battles and appeals. She gave it all to the families of the victims found in the basement. It wasn't much. Didn't bring their loved ones back. But it was something. The mansion was demolished in 2021. Rebecca was there to watch it come down. Tony stood beside her. Jake too. Dave had apologized and come back. Some friendships survive anything. As the walls crumbled, Rebecca felt something lift from her chest. The weight she'd been carrying since that first day. The $100 mansion that changed her life. That almost ended it. Any regrets? Jake asked. Rebecca thought about it. About the fear. The danger. The nightmares she still had sometimes. About Vincent Castellano and the people he'd hurt. About justice delayed but finally delivered. No, she said. No regrets. She left real estate after that. Couldn't look at abandoned properties the same way. Started working with a nonprofit that helped crime victims. Used her experience to advocate for better witness protection. For investigating corruption in law enforcement. Antonio died in prison 2 years later. Heart attack. Some said natural causes. Others whispered that even in prison, the family took care of its own. Rebecca didn't care. He was gone. That was enough. She still maintains the dead man's switch. Still resets it every 48 hours. Probably will for the rest of her life. The documents are out there, copies hidden in places even she's forgotten. Insurance. Just like Vincent had because she learned something in that mansion. Something Vincent knew. Something that kept him alive for years until it didn't. Some secrets are worth dying for, but some secrets are worth living for too. Worth fighting for. Worth risking everything to bring into the light. The $100 mansion cost her peace of mind. Cost her sleep. Cost her the life she'd planned. But it gave her something too. Purpose. The knowledge that she'd done something that mattered, that she'd given voice to the voiceless, justice to the forgotten. That was worth more than any amount of money. Worth more than any mansion, no matter how beautiful.